fellow riders, coming to you live from rainy Norway. It's been raining for about a month and now it really started raining, so I have been busy evacuating horses from potential landslide areas, taking them in, the ones with shoes on when it started thundering, etc., etc. And I've also been watching the news to stay updated on what's going on, what roads are blocked, and etc. Which I think has made me a little bit scared, or made me, or at least made Google think that I want to read more about accidents. So anyhow, I've been kind of popping up quite a bit of research on horse riding accidents, actually, which I then started reading. Maybe because I was in some kind of accident mode. And that's when I stumbled upon a research by Dr. Janet M. Surley, who has been studying accidents who has led to hospitalization just in general. And she also wanted to know like what kind of sports and activities were the most dangerous. And after 5 years of studying this, she found that horseback riding was actually one of the most dangerous activities that we can do. It was more dangerous than skiing, like high speed skiing, and also more dangerous than riding a motorcycle, which was came a bit like a shock to me because I don't necessarily experience horseback riding as dangerous. But as I started reading the report, there were several head injuries. So head injuries was like the number one cause of hospitalization and even death. And there were other stuff as well that she kind of mentioned, little stories of things that had happened. Some things you can't really prevent. But there was definitely one story that struck me very much, and that was a 4-year-old kid dying from head injury from riding, together with his father on a horse, and of course without the helmet. And I was like, this is totally devastating. Imagine if this has happened to me, if I took one of my kids up on a horseback and we were, riding together, having fun, and suddenly something happens and your child dies, which, isn't that far-fetched, because shortly after I saw this picture on the fridge. I'm not sure if you can see it. It's hanging there on the fridge. It's, I think it's August. He's about 4 years old, riding together with grandpa. And I definitely allowed it and was like, oh, this is so cute. Let's take some pictures. So I'm coming live just to warn you guys that this stuff is actually dangerous, and accidents can happen. So at least if we do stuff like this, put on a helmet. Yes, because I think that was one of Janet's conclusions after studying accidents for 5 years and hospitalizations, was that the main cause of death was head injury, and head injury was also the most common injury among equestrians. And she said all those who died from injuries, they were not wearing a helmet, and it's a very, very easy way to prevent head injury. And I have been guilty of this too. There are pictures of me riding without a helmet. I know, but usually I use a helmet. But for a photo shoot with a Viking dress, I like to take the helmet off because it tends to, not look so pretty on the pictures. But maybe I will from now on be like 100% helmet rider. And my kids definitely, they have been very concerned with wearing helmets and sometimes even reminding me to use a helmet. So that's great. So let me know in the comments below if you are using a helmet or not when riding, because that can be a great way to prevent head injury. However, I look at, helmet and other security equipment as, as a seat belt while driving a car. Of course, we use a seat belt while driving a car, so why not use a helmet when riding? But it's not necessarily the seat belt that keeps us safe when driving. And it's also not necessarily the helmet that keeps us safe when riding. Because, like with a car, it's the steering wheel and the car's ability to steer and the brakes working and, having good tires and stuff like that. That's what makes the car safe to drive. If the brakes aren't working properly and the steering wheel's a little off, or the car suddenly, goes faster and slower and stops and refuses to move, that car isn't safe to drive. But there are quite a few horses out there who aren't necessarily safe to ride. So even if we put on a helmet, it doesn't necessarily make us safer. So if an accident and something unpredictable happens, the helmet is great, but there are stuff we definitely can prevent when it comes to riding accidents with horses. So please, if you are here, let me know in the comments below if this makes sense. Are you with me when I say that, it's advisable to use a helmet, but it's not the only thing that keeps us safe when riding? Yes, please let me know, yes or no, in the comments below. Because that's my second point, is that, of course, use safety equipment, but also make sure that your horse's steering wheel works and that the brakes work, and also that, your horse isn't stopping and refusing to move and stuff like that. Because that's, after all, what's going to keep us safe when riding. And especially if a horse starts spooking or bolting or bucking, I see that most riders, grab both reins in some kind of attempt of stopping this, which isn't necessarily the best way to stop a horse when a horse is upset. Because a horse can easily lean against two reins, and this way of kind of grabbing the reins and trying to suddenly stop them with two reins is much more likely to upset the horse even more. So what I have found is probably one of the most important things that can keep us safe when riding is to teach ourselves and our horse the when to stop, so that we actually have a tool to calm the horse and stop the horse if a horse spooks or bolts or something unexpected happens. And this is not necessarily something that people learn when they start riding horses. Some might learn some kind of one rein stop, but that's a different way of stopping than the actual bend to stop. And I'm going to explain a little bit why. Because most riding accidents obviously happen when horses buck, bolt, spook, or do something stupid. And for horses to buck, bolt, or rear, they need to, have force from both hind legs to do it. They need to pull up and away with two hind legs. But if the horse is crossing over behind, they can't buck, bolt, and rear, because the horse physically can't do it while crossing the hind legs over. And the way of stopping horses that I normally see, which is either using two reins like this and stop the horse, which doesn't work at all because the horse can lean onto it, and if they are bucking, they tend to buck even more. Or the other way of stopping of the horse, which is just pulling on one rein and bending their neck. Horses are capable of bolting although they have their neck bent. They're also capable of bucking with their neck bent. So just bending their neck isn't going to solve this. We need to, obviously bend their neck, but also make the horse cross over behind. And this is not something we can teach horses in like a 20-minute session and go like, yeah, I can bend the neck, I'm safe, I do a one rein stop. It's not going to work like that. This is something we need to build from the ground and practice so that it kind of becomes a habit. That when we pick up on the rein, we also reach the hind leg and the horse crosses over behind. Because when the horse does this many times, when we pick up on the rein, that's what's going to happen. But if the horse has never done this before, if we pick up on the rein, the horse is just going to bend the neck and continue doing whatever it was doing. Let me know in the comments below if this makes sense. Yes, and if you know the bend to stop and practice it with your horse. Because that's actually something I teach myself and all my horses and also all my kids before they go riding anywhere. And I'm pretty sure that if I hadn't taught them this, they would probably not learn it, even though they've been to riding camps and riding schools and whatnot and taking lessons. They have, never really learned the actual bend to stop. That's something I have taught them. And since both my kids know it and the horses know it, and we have practiced it, they know what to do in a situation if a horse starts bolting or bucking or spooking. They know how to get the horse, calm again. Because that's something, a third benefit of the bend to stop is that it empties worry in the horse by the horse kind of finding its own stop. Versus pulling on two reins might stop the horse, but it doesn't empty any worry. And I think also maybe the main benefit is that when we do this many times, it will also work even though we are not necessarily bending the horse a whole round to stop them. It will work also at great speed without needing to turn the horse around. We can just pick up on the rein, and since that rein is now connected with the hind leg, the horse can stop very instantly. And also, if we practice this a little bit when riding, the horse isn't going to be worried by doing a stop like that. So let me know in the comments below if you practice this. And what I also did after reading about all these accidents and this amazing study by Janet that she did, I can provide the link below if you want to read it. Then I actually made a little video for you showing how you can teach yourself and your horse the bend to stop, like from the ground upwards, in a very, very easy way that, makes it very easy for the horse to do the right thing and get the right movements from start, because the pattern we have practiced on the ground becomes the same pattern we use when riding. And yeah, I think the best way to learn this is to basically just watch the video. And I put it up just a few minutes ago, and you can find it on ridelikeviking.com/blog. And it's going to show you how you can get started with the bend to stop so that you stay safe when riding. Because if the steering wheel doesn't work and the brakes don't work, then, we don't really have any tools to stay safe when something happens. And I've seen so many videos of bucking and bolting horses and riders trying to stop them by pulling on two reins, and everything just kind of escalating, ending with the rider being thrown off, that this simple exercise can save lives. And if you want to learn it, check out ridelikeviking.com/blog, and it will be the first blog you see, and there's a video there showing how you can get started with your horse. And it doesn't really take more than, it takes the time it takes. So it depends, of course, on your starting point. But the video shows actually a mare with a very unbeneficial starting point. She didn't really know any groundwork that had anything to do with the bend to stop. She did very much the opposite from the beginning. So I then, of course, did groundwork until this pattern of movement was something she was doing from self, and that she also had the ability to kind of find her own stop, something she wasn't capable of to begin with. What if you don't have the space for a bend to stop? Galloping on a narrow path. Yes, like I said, Liv, when you practice this pattern of the bend to stop, it starts with a bend to stop and the horse finding its own stop. And sometimes they can go a couple of circles before they find their own stop. But since the sequence of cues is always the same, like first we pick up on the rein, then the horse bends the neck, then the horse bends the body, then they cross over behind and find their own stop. This happens after each other without the sequence of cues being broken by a pause. And eventually that's going to connect our rein aid to the hind leg of the horse. So then we don't need to, do a full bend to stop them. Then it's enough to pick up on one rein, which then stops the hind leg. And actually, the faster the horse goes, the faster they will stop, which sounds very counterintuitive, but it's when horses are cantering, if you stop the hind leg that the horse pushes forward with, the horse is going to stop, like bam. But if we are kind of walking or trotting, it might actually take a little longer before the horse stops because it's kind of more difficult to reach their hind leg. Yeah, I actually have a video of this that I took where I was riding with guests, and we were galloping and pacing and riding quite fast when one of the horses came from behind very fast, just as the other horse in front turned left. So they crashed. And I was, on a good speed gallop there. I just picked up on the rein and my horse stopped and he stood on loose reins because I've been practicing the bend to stop and this pattern. So, he knew how to do it. But simply bending their neck or doing 2 rein stops is not going to teach horses this. Yes. And another detail, I'm not sure if it matters, but the horse was in the left canter and I picked up on the right rein. So in the left canter, the horse is going to push off with the right hind leg. So I didn't really plan it, but that's how I did it. So I think you might want to, if your horse is galloping, check check what gallop it is and then pick up on the opposite rein. Yes, it makes sense, Liv. And if you keep on practicing, you will be amazed. And I also try to do this, like when I'm trail riding, I do a little fast canter and go to a stop. So just so my horses kind of know the procedure. And before I started doing this, and before I was doing the bend to stop, I very often found that the faster the horse went, the harder the horse was to stop. But now it's actually the opposite. Yes, so it's like it takes longer to stop a horse from a walk or trot than from a gallop. But we have practiced the transition. Yes, both physically and mentally. Yep. And we're also practicing with the trotter. Yeah, she's getting great at it. And these trotters, they can really lean on and go faster and faster when you try stopping them with 2 reins, because that's something they learn on the trotting tracks. Like, 2 reins doesn't really work, but 1 rein works very well once the horse knows it and once this rein is attached to the hind legs. But it all starts with the bend to stop and doing it slowly, and just make sure the horse uses the hind part. And you're going to see exactly how I do this in the video, in the blog on ridelikeaviking.com/blog. So there will be a link below, and please check it out and stay safe while riding. Okay, thank you so much for watching this evening. Bye for now.